But what about validation? Did you ever feel like you needed validation because you
don't
didn't get
think
it from your father?
He validated. My dad loved me, and he was proud of me. You know, he used to stop people on the street, and I had people stop me on the street when I was much younger and go, "I met your dad." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I was crossing the street at waiting at a red light, and he just said, 'Hey, do you know Andrew McCarthy?' That's my son." And so, like, my dad used to sort of weird, you know, if they were the right demo, he would stop them, you know, and which I found very sad in a certain way.
Yeah.
I did. That broke my heart for him. It really made me sad. I was first humiliated by it and angered by it when I was young, and then it made me very sad for him later. But I mean, I know my dad was proud of me and, you know, all that stuff, but in his way.
Yeah, you know, it's weird because sometimes people ask me this question and then I'll go, huh. And the question is, do you think your parents love you and they're so trying to be in your life a little bit more because you've had success, because you have maybe a little money, because you have, and so did you ever have to deal with that where there's like your father, you say he disappeared, but then when you started having the success, he would see people in the street, he'd say, "That's my son, he was all this." Did you think, okay, but what if I wasn't successful? Did that ever haunt you? Like, is he doing it because he really?
Well, I think success, my public success young, really harmed my relationships in my family, very much so. I was not the star of the family growing up. You know what I mean? My brother, I have 3 brothers, 2 older, 1 younger, and my oldest brother was like smart and, you know, and the other one was the jock, and I was like the sensitive kid or something, but I was not the star of the family, you know? And when I became one in a public way at 21, 22 years old, that sort of blew up my household. My parents got divorced around that time anyway, so they were going through their own thing, but it sort of blew up my relationships with my brothers, because they're still in their mid-20s trying to figure out who they are, and suddenly their little brother is like some movie star, and you know what I mean? I think that was difficult for them to navigate. And so I found the opposite with success in my family. And so it made me, because of my temperament, just sort of flee that and go, "Oh, this isn't a safe place. I'm you know, and I'm a loner a bit anyway. So I kind of, the combination of that and with feeling slightly poached by them made me just flee. You know, and I had a lot of people early on ask me for money and things when I was young, and family members too. And you know, invariably you give it to them at the beginning until you realize that whoever you give money to, hate you for it. Because you're basically saying, "I'll do for you what I see you can't do for yourself." And people hate you for that. And so everyone who I tried to help financially resented me for it. So I stopped, you know, doing that.
I still enable. I still do it. I'm much better at it now, but it angers me that I do it. My business.
But why do you do it?
Because I don't want to feel guilty when they die.
Uh-huh. That doesn't add up. You know, that math, it's 2 and 2 is like 5.
I want to say that, hey, I really did everything I could, and I was really a good brother or a good son or a good whatever. But it gets to a point where it's like, can't you cut it off and still say you did that because you did that for so long? It's like, when does it end? And you came to a point where you cut it off with your dad. I haven't had. My father doesn't need money, but like someone in my family, they do. But they don't. They have always sort of, you know, been the victim. They've always sort of like, you know, I need this, I can't do this. They're married. They have, it doesn't make sense, but I keep helping out because I do love them and I want them to be happy. I don't want them to be destitute. And maybe there's an ego thing. Maybe there's,
of course there is.
Maybe there's sort of like, if I let that happen, and then all of a sudden, they can't afford, then all of a sudden the town where I grew up in, they're like, "Oh, your family, you have money. Why aren't you helping them?" Maybe there's that sort of like, I care about what other people think.
Well, of course. Yeah, but also, you know, there's
therapy
a sense of,
for me. Andrew, this is therapy for me.
There's a sort of playing big shot too for, you know, I give you money. So I'm empowered. I have power over you now.
I don't want it. I really don't. I don't want to have that power. I just want them to be happy and do whatever they can to make ends meet and do the things that I think are simple steps into doing that. Because, you know, I have friends that, you know, I know that if I didn't have a job, I would go get a job. If I didn't have money, I would go figure out how to make money. These are certain things that were ingrained in me that I always knew. And it's easy to say now when you're doing well, but I know that. And a lot of people are like that. They're like, hey, I'll work at McDonald's. I'll work at wherever. But maybe there's pride in whatever, and they don't want to do that.
For sure. When my dad was wanting money, I always used to say, I'd be proud of your dad if you were a bag person in the checkout, at the supermarket. But, easy for me to say.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was that would have been the truth, but he wasn't being able to do that. And I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. I wouldn't want to be bagging in the supermarket either. Hey, you're that guy from Mannequin. What are you doing putting my groceries? You know what I mean? So I get that.